Hey everyone, Jeff from War for the Tower has a brand new bag. The War for the Tower has 3 new cast members, Everything is Awesome has a new co-host, and Shattered Worlds RPG is now a bi-weekly live stream. Check out Shattered Worlds RPG on Twitch, the link is in the show notes, and get into the hit space opera fantasy that the cool kids crave. Thanks so much to Jeff for his ongoing sponsorship of Unspoiled, and if you do go and check out his stuff, let him know we sent you.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2. The co-hosts switcheroo. The rereading return to Westeros HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from 98. Call in with your requests now! In this episode, we're covering chapters 30 and 31. Arya and Catelyn. In these chapters, Arya overhears a very terrible story that really lodged itself in my brain for some reason, and I hated it. And Catelyn meets with the band of brothers. They don't like each other, and everybody is so bored. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Alright, so I warned you about the Arya chapter. And... you know, I probably overblew it, but I just want, this is just one of those that for whatever reason got to me so bad. I think because it's some of the, most detail we get on a rape scene in these books. And because it is told in a way that it's meant to be a real funny tale with, a punchline at the end. And I just wondered how you felt about it.
I mean, well, it was, it's awful, but it wasn't, it didn't have, there's really not it wasn't as disturbing as I was preparing myself for something to be.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of glad. I would rather have you be over-prepared than otherwise. You know what I mean? And truthfully, the story is shorter than I remember. I don't know if it's just it was so awful and unexpected the first time I heard it that I was it dragged out in my mind's eye because of how terrible it was, because I was so unprepared.
Right.
But yeah, when I reread it, I was like, oh, okay, that was barely a page. And I was imagining it as most of the chapter in my head,
Wow.
But yeah, it just, that one messed me up. I didn't like that, and it like I said, sort of stayed in my head after I read it.
Yeah, clearly. To the point where you were anticipating it earlier than it even showed up. You never know what's going to stick in your brain a certain way,
Yeah.
And of course, things impact people in different ways, and how your brain will hold on to, that's the way our brains will hold on to any kind of traumatic thing that happens.
Yeah.
Because our brain is hyper vigilant to make sure we don't get upset like that again. So it's just one of those weird things our minds do. But for sure it was unpleasant. Casual gang rape is dinner conversation,
right?
You know, is no good.
Well said.
I feel like I don't need to elaborate on that. But yeah, I was, because I knew that there was going to be something to be, you know, mindful of in a chapter. I was looking like, when is it? Where's it coming from? Mm-hmm. And we get the introduction of the brave companions, who I don't remember if we. Well, I won't get into all that, but
we
I kept
did not have them in the show. There were a couple of people that it felt like were meant to be sort of nods to them, mm-hmm. but they weren't what they are in the books.
Right.
And it was a combo of disappointment and relief, because they were very awful. So I was sort of like unsure how to feel about them being left out.
I kept thinking that something was going to happen and they were going to be the ones to do it. And it was going to be something that Arya saw in real life. Mm-hmm. And I was really... And please, guys, understand that this is just, for lack of a better way to phrase it, I was relieved when what turned out to be the retelling of something that had happened off page. Yeah. You know?
I think that was part of what got me the first time also. They're coming for us. They heard our pre-show conversation. They know what we're up to. Don't go on the dark web for the next few days, kids. But I think that it was the fact that it was like a secondhand story, and so when I was reading it, I didn't expect for it to like bother me as much, because it was... So it sort of like lowered my instincts, my defenses preemptively, mm-hmm. and then wound up being disturbing anyway, and I was like, well, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. But yeah, also, this is when Rorge and Biter get teamed up with the old crew again. Mm-hmm. They join them at Harrenhal, and I had forgotten exactly how that happened. I was talking with Owen about it, because Owen is finally caught up. He was listening to the show, and I was trying to remember exactly how we wind up with Jaqen H'ghar at Harrenhal. And what a relief that she can tell him to immediately kill the guy telling this fucking story. That's a little bit of relief is the wrong word. It's a little gratifying, maybe?
Yeah, there's a modicum of satisfaction there.
Yeah.
It's seeing this. I remembered from the show when Arya is at Harrenhal, what the show did, and maybe the books, it doesn't feel like the book is doing something different, at least as of the chapters I'm on right now. In the show, they had her basically be like an attendant to mm-hmm. Tywin, you know, mm-hmm. in some kind of like manner, you know.
Right.
And it made for really good television. You know, it's very tense as the viewer. Like, does he know who she is? Is he going to find out? And then, mm-hmm, you know, there's a whole thing, right? But here, that is not what she's doing. She doesn't have a job quite so lofty.
Yeah, not at all.
And I can understand why this is not on screen, you know? I don't know if this would have made for great viewing, mm-hmm. us watching her scurry around a bunch of people that we don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the reading of it, I thought it was way more interesting than what we got on the show.
It's interesting for you to say that, because so many people who had read the books were actually pleased with the changes on the show. They felt like her getting to see and talk to Tywin was a fun choice. Mm-hmm. And but I can see that if you'd already seen the show and you got the satisfaction of that this would be a very different perspective that offers an insight into other things.
Yeah, exactly. Because on the flip side, I don't know how interesting it would be to read. Well, maybe it would have been, but just to read Arya she wasn't like, she was like, I keep wanting to call her a waitress.
Sorry, guys. Rashawn's GarageBand stopped working and cut us off, so we're going back and recalling where she got cut off. And she called Arya a waitress, and then I came up with cupbearer, because that felt like the closest thing.
Yeah, I feel like it was very good in a pinch.
It was the best I could do. But you were saying that you liked this as a change to the way that the show depicted her.
Right, because I thought this was more interesting to read than I think just reading about how she's listening in Tywin's conversations while she's bearing his cups.
I don't like the way you said that. Something about that
it felt dirty, right?
Yeah, I don't like it.
It was unintended. And you said to me, I don't know if this was before we got cut off, that a lot of readers actually really enjoyed the change on the show.
Yes. I think a lot of people felt like the how close she got to Tywin was so tantalizing that it was almost like a little bit of a fan fiction thing to get her to actually interact with him and talk to him.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember how tense it was to watch those scenes. But I'm not sure how well that would have translated.
I think a lot of it was just how good Charles Dance was as Tywin, that people wanted to see more of him, and they wound up having such excellent chemistry together on screen. Because I don't feel like Tywin in the books is as compelling. Not that I don't enjoy him in his way,
right.
But he's just, Charles Dance brings his whole fucking magnetism to it.
Yeah, so I agree too so far. I mean, we haven't really, been all up in his grill yet. But so far, the Tywin character is, for me, even though we've seen him in action, he still looms really large in the way his children talk about him.
Right, yeah,
definitely. For me, as opposed to when he's actually on a page, I'm just kind of like, okay, all right, I guess.
Right.
But this having Arya kind of, the way she's describing her duties here at Harrenhal and how small and insignificant she feels is very different, because she was very significant in those scenes with Tywin on the show, right?
Yeah,
she was like up front and center. And here, this is just such a different tone, where she's in her own words kind of like keeping to the crevices and not wanting to be seen, trying to be as invisible as possible, because there's a sense of safety in being invisible in a place like this. And I'm so sorry. I'm trying to. I don't want to leave out anything that we lost. But
well, something that I wanted to add, just like on this topic, is that I do enjoy too how the fact that. And this is something that they really couldn't have done as well in the show, because, again, actor contracts and needing to, move things forward with every scene. But what I really liked about Arya being so ordinary and, just basically treated like a peasant here, is that she gets these real garbled fucking accounts of what's going on.
Fantastic.
Right? Like, everybody's telling her a different thing. Everybody is so sure that they heard the right one and that they know. And nobody has, a straight answer. Everybody is telling all of these stories about, what's his face and how
about
he got
Barrett?
killed. Yeah. And, as we know, they're all true.
Exactly.
But they sound like nonsense.
Yes. There's one guy that actually says something about when he raises from the dead again, and it's clear that he's being facetious, but we're all like, if only you knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's another really good contrast too, right? Because in the show, the stuff she was hearing was coming right from Tywin. So she was hearing accurate information.
Yes.
But this is just this bitch is on Twitter. It's just people are just saying anything.
Oh my God, that's a perfect. Yep, that's it.
So it's, and some of it is stories that are being told to her. A lot of it is just shit she's overhearing because no one is paying any attention to her. Mm-hmm. It was just, I won't say this was a fun chapter, but it was a good read. Yeah. Up until when it wasn't.
And this is the sort of thing that I like to hold up as an example of it's not like the show is inherently not going to be as good as the books because we really liked what they did in the show in its way, but they can do very, very different things. And the show may have been able to pull off something like this if they had more time, if they were going to take a more leisurely pace in how they told the story.
Right.
But, in a book, it's just, there's so much more room to stretch out. And I just don't think that in the show, Arya is brought as low as she is in the books. You really get this sense of her believing in her own smallness at times. She's trying to get in touch with one of her father's bannermen. I'm trying to remember what his name is. And he winds up dropping dead. And she thinks to herself, of course he couldn't help you, you stupid mouse.
Yeah.
And there's just something so sad about her being like, what are you fucking thinking? It's a simultaneous loss of hope that is devastating, but also there's a realism there that I'm sure is part of what keeps her alive. It's a very, I feel a lot of ways about it.
Right. There's also one of the other things that she gets to hear, not only news of what's going on in the world and as far as the war goes, and she even hears the little bit of news about Joffrey, right? Not being Robert's true son. There's a bit about how all the people in the kitchen are spitting in this one guy's food.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yes. Who is that? Waymar Royce? No, Waymar Royce is the guy from the beginning. It was somebody with a W name.
Swift. Harris Swift.
Harris
Swift.
Why did I think of the W in Swift as the first? Whatever. Who knows? Brains. But yeah, that I would love to know what he did.
Yeah, it doesn't say. It just says they all despised him.
Yeah.
And they spit on his food.
I'm loving that. Just a little petty something.
Mm-hmm. There's some guy that, pees his bed every night that they're talking about.
Yup.
And again, this is all stuff that, you said to your point, if it were a different show, if it wasn't just 10 episodes, whatever, maybe they could have done this, but it doesn't really move the story along.
Yeah.
But it really, as a reader, it just helps to really flesh out where she is and what her life is like at this point. Mm-hmm. And who she's surrounded by,
Yeah.
So, we hear all this. There's a bit where she talks about the size of Harrenhal, which has been mentioned a couple times. Mm-hmm. And it's mentioned again here. But what I loved about it was she says that the size of the castle makes Clegane seem small.
Yeah.
Which, there's a fucking image.
She is talking about, the Great Hall. And I love that she tried to count the fires twice, and she came up with different numbers both times. I just love the implication of that. She can't stand on one wall and just count. It's so big that she has to actively travel up and down it to see the things, to count them.
Right.
Which means she loses I don't know why that's so funny to me, but...
They also mentioned at the beginning that, of course, everybody that she was traveling with are all separated. Hot Pie is in the kitchen, and so she gets to see him every once in a while. And he keeps calling her Airy.
Yes. He hasn't fucking caught up yet, man.
And that she doesn't get to see Gendry anymore because he went to the Forge. And there's a line that says, the people that she works with, she doesn't want to know their names because that makes it worse when they die.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck.
Right.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Have you ever worked somewhere that had such high turnover that you didn't, like, bother getting to know people?
Currently.
Oh, shit. Fair.
It's been this last, this year and a half, there's been an incredible amount of turnover that, like, I used to be able to keep up with all the people that worked out in the branches, and I would know people and know who to reach out to, and I get calls and emails from people, and I'm just like, who are you? What? I don't know who anyone is anymore, and yeah.
Yeah. So this is when the Bloody Mummers arrive, about a fortnight later, and she describes them, and they sound wild.
This is a motley crew, isn't it?
Indeed. Beneath the standard of a black goat with bloody horns rode copper men with bells in their braids, lancers astride striped black and white horses, bowmen with powdered cheeks, squat hairy men with shaggy shields, brown-skinned men in feathered cloaks, a wispy fool in green and pink motley, swordsmen with fantastic forked beards dyed green and purple and silver, spearmen with colored scars that covered their cheeks, a slender man in septon's robes, a fatherly one in maester's gray, and a sickly one whose leather cloak was fringed with long blonde hair. At their head was a man stick-thin and very tall, with a drawn, emaciated face made even longer by the ropey black beard that grew from his pointed chin nearly to his waist. So, yeah. Weiss is watching them, and, like, Weiss fucking is such a piece of shit that if he's warning you to stay the fuck out of somebody's way, you know they gotta be real bad.
And he's got his fucking friend with him, who, when she asked, who are they, which to my mind is a testament to what a sight they must be, because I feel like she doesn't generally go around asking Weiss any fucking thing.
Yeah.
But, like, this is such a thing to behold. She's just like, who the fuck is this? And his friend laughs at her and then gives her a couple of different names, and we find out, like, a second later that these are all things that you don't call them to their face. And Weiss explains to her that, basically that, like, they call themselves the Brave Companions and don't use any of those other names.
Yeah.
Anywhere where they can hear you, or they'll hurt you bad. And that is one of the first seconds where I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if something like this happens. And that's what I was being warned about, like, for this chapter.
Got you. I kind of enjoy that I instilled this dread in you.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe I should do that every week. Just be like, ooh, watch out. Something crazy happens. And yeah, the dude named Vargo Hoat, he apparently goes by Lord, but he is definitely not a Lord. But you should still definitely call
Can
him
you
that.
imagine what you must have done and what you must be known to be capable of if in a world like this where the title of Lord really means a thing? And you can just tell people to call you that. And they're like, you know what? Yes. Yes, I will.
Yeah. Ugh. And Arya is really relieved because they're housed in a tower that she doesn't have anything to do with. So she doesn't really need to be around them or risk anything. But nevertheless, there is this fucking incident right away.
They're not even there that long.
Yeah.
They're like in and out in like a minute. But in the short time they're there, look at what happens.
On the very night they arrived, fighting broke out between the sellswords and some Lannister men. Sir Harris Swift's squire was stabbed to death, and 2 of the Bloody Mummers were wounded. The next morning, Lord Tywin hanged them both from the gatehouse walls, along with one of Lord Lyddon's archers. Vargo Hoat and Sir Harris embraced and kissed and swore to love each other always as Lord Tywin looked on. And apparently Vargo Hoat, like, slobbers a lot when he talks. And it's like, it would be funny if you were allowed to laugh. But
right.
he's definitely, that's not okay to do with this guy.
And the guy that's with Weiss says the same thing about him. Says he's not a lord, he's just a sellsword with a mouthful of slobber. So it's clearly like a noticed and known thing.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind of thing you say to his face. I just want to say that when the description of these guys, there's a bit where they talk about somebody having, some of them having forked beards dyed green and purple and silver. Mm-hmm. That is very familiar to me for some reason. And I can't remember exactly, but I feel like later in the show, I forget what season, but I feel like there was a lot of hype about a character being introduced and everybody thought he was going to look like this, but then he doesn't.
Yep. Right?
That was the thing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You'll meet him. I'm delighted that you remember like the vague outline but no details, because this is going to make it way funner. This is something. It's something.
So my assumption was just that it was just like this is just the way a particular type of sellsword dresses. But, yeah. But I'm wondering if the character I'm thinking of shows up so much later in the show that I'm wondering is he here now? Oh.
Well, I can't tell you that, but no.
But so yeah, they come in, they stay like not very long. They bring a bunch of drama and nonsense with them, mm-hmm. and then they leave. And we don't know exactly where they were going. This is when we start to hear like bits and pieces of, all the news that she's hearing from other places.
Right.
The guy that she remembers that she thinks can help her is Lord Serwyn.
Right. Yeah, he dies, and mm-hmm. I don't know that we know, like, the cause of death.
We know that that there's other prisoners that are out and about. He's the one that's never out because he was hurt in the battle.
Okay, yeah.
And so sort of the implication is just that he doesn't recover from his wounds. But,
yeah.
That's what I inferred anyway.
And this is something where she says to herself, he couldn't have helped you anyway. And I tend to think that's true.
Yeah, I agree. I
don't think there was anything he was going to be able to do.
Yeah. She's thinking to herself before he dies that he must have gold, and she remembers her father said that sellswords could always be bought at the highest price. They have no loyalty. She starts to get this whole sort of fantasy, this escape fantasy going in her head.
Yeah.
About how this guy would buy, not buy her freedom directly, but be able to bribe someone to get her home. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which I feel like that's not a thing that would have been possible.
Agreed, yeah. I don't expect that he carried a bunch of gold with him onto the battlefield before getting captured.
And yeah, exactly. And if by some chance he had it in his socks, they got to it immediately.
Yeah, they definitely scooped that shit up. And also, depending on the type of guy, he might use the fact that he has her as a way of saving himself somehow.
Oh, exactly. We don't know anything about this man.
Yeah.
She remembers him because they had visited. There's a bit when she's sort of lamenting that she didn't pay more attention to her lessons because
I love that.
There are all these people, but she can't identify who's who because she doesn't recognize their sigils and their banners and their little whatever else is. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, I should have paid more attention to September Day.
I love that. That's like one of those things that I 100% could see happening, that this is so boring in the moment. And then you're like on the spot needing to know who somebody is. And you're like, God damn it, I should have paid attention.
Absolutely.
That's like politicians getting flash pictures of like VIPs that are going to be at their fundraiser so that they know who they are and what they do, Mm-hmm. Fucking anxiety. It just gives me to hear about that secondhand. No, thank you.
I love, too, that when she's in this fantasy of hers, she says that this man would be honor-bound to help her. Mm-hmm. as if honor has any place
here in this world.
You know?
Yeah.
But, I'm sorry, I just thought about that really. It made me really sad because to your point, like you just said, you know, she doesn't know if this guy would really help her or use her to get his own freedom.
Yeah.
But here she is thinking, oh, honor would make him have to help me. Like, it doesn't even occur to her.
Yeah, after everything, you'd think that she would begin to cotton on, but I think she just assumes, like, all of these people are our enemies. So, of course, they're terrible, and that she's still under this assumption that if they're on my side, it'll be different. You know?
Right. So, she goes back to her, you know, her daily drudgery.
Literally, yep.
And, you know, there's all the talk of going back and forth. Ravens are coming and going. And then she is serving wine someplace. And, what's his face is there? Jaqen
H'ghar, yeah.
He is at the table.
Doesn't he come in, like, ride past her on his way in? I don't think that she's serving wine, because she, like, sees him, doesn't think he recognizes her, and then he wakes her up in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. First they ride in at the end of a column, you're right. And she sees all three of them come in. Mm-hmm. And, she thinks to herself she should have let him die.
Yeah, she's really salty about this whole thing. The fact that they made it, she's disgusted.
And, yeah, there's this weird, because there's two pages of the book. Like, one says, after Serwyn dies, it says, after that, it was back to scrubbing. Mm-hmm. And then, the next page, it says, she spent the rest of that day scrubbing. Just like... I didn't realize I had skipped the whole page.
So yeah, he like puts his hand over her mouth and wakes her up in the middle of the night and is like, all right, so I owe you 3 lives. And she's like, okay, help me get to Winterfell. And he's like, I don't think you were listening. I didn't say anything about helping you. I said, I owe you 3 lives. So you think it over and get back to me. And she avoids him for the next few days because she is, I think it's a combo of just being irritated that he doesn't want to straight up help her, not knowing who to name, and being a little bit just like freaked out about this entire situation. And then Gregor comes back with his people, and she gets sent to them by Weiss to find out if they need anything washed or mended or anything like that. And when she walks in, Chiswick is in the middle of one of his, quote, funny stories.
Yeah.
And it turns out, too, that the reason that this went as left as it did was that the Mountain was in a bad mood because he had just lost the tourney to Loras.
Yep.
So he was just cranky already, and the brewer who owned the place was not reading the room.
Yeah, everyone else understood to be quiet because he was in a mood. And meanwhile, this man will not shut up. And
eventually just asks, how'd the tourney go? Which just turns everything left. So we won't get into all of that, but it's horrible. And she hears this story and is just like so overcome with rage that she goes downstairs without getting any of the stuff that she was meant to. She gets beaten by Weiss until she bleeds and doesn't even like feel it because she is so distracted.
Yeah, she says she closes her eyes and thinks of all the things that Syrio had taught her. And she barely even feels the beating. And then a few nights later, we sends her back to the barracks hall to serve at a table, and that's where she finds him at the, at his trencher, which is just a. I don't care for that.
Why?
I don't know. I don't really know what that means. At
it's
his
a long
trencher across
bowl.
the aisle. Is that what a trencher is? Because for some reason my mind went to trough. And
I mean,
was
it's it's like a small trough.
Yeah,
and
I don't
you can
care
make
for
them
it.
out of bread.
Yeah, okay.
Usually, that's what in this book they tend to be. It's like made out of bread. It's a bread bowl.
Yeah,
like
didn't call
Panera.
it that.
It's a bread trough.
Something about the way that's said is just so unappealing. I was just like, oh God.
Yeah.
And she finally makes her way to him and whispers Cheswick in his ear. And she finishes serving and, goes on about her days.
Yeah.
And nothing really happens the first day or two. And then sure enough, word comes down that someone has taken a bit of a tumble.
A tumbler. Oh dear. Oh, what an unfortunate accident. This gentleman here. Oh, a bit of a rough and tumble, if you ask me. Must have been a ghost.
Must have been a ghost.
I don't know
To
what
which-
these people. This place is full of fucking maniacs, literal homicidal maniacs, and they're
right.
like, "It must have been a ghost."
must have been a
okay, Jesus, what kind of denial are you living in?
That is a fantastic point. But yeah, so it ends with her thinking that she's the ghost in Harrenhal.
Yeah,
And there's one less name on her list.
I love it.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good ending. That list is growing.
Yeah, it is.
But also shortening.
True. So then we go to Catelyn, and this is truly like the most infuriating thing. I hated it.
This was I was so frustrated. And there was a line towards the end where Catelyn is just like, she's so tired. And I was like, girl, yes. This was fucking exhausting. Mm-hmm. Men and their bullshit. Yes, I said it.
Yep.
This is just...
That could be the name of this whole series.
Oh my God, it really could men and their bullshit. I mean... So, Catelyn has been sent to try to broker a peace and understanding.
She hasn't even been sent. She just goes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, once
That's
she hears
right.
that he's like attacking, she's like, alright, I guess that's my next stop now.
That's right. She keeps telling everybody that Rob sent her, but he didn't really send her, did he?
No, he doesn't even know
forgot
she's
about
there.
that. So, she is on this mission of her own to try to get them to realize that the bigger enemy is the Lannisters. Mm-hmm. And that they should put their squabble to the side.
Yep.
So, here's the thing. This is exhausting, but I don't mean to suggest that I expected it to go any differently.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, what'd you think was going to happen? This is what I thought was going to happen. But it was still exhausting.
Kind of what she thought was going to happen.
I also was trying to remember from the show, right? Mm-hmm. How this goes down. And I think it's pretty similar. They meet,
pretty sure, yeah.
right? And they have this sort of this meeting that is not pleasant. I was trying to think of something that rhymed, but I couldn't come up with anything.
It rhymed with what? Meeting?
Meeting, yeah.
I got nothing.
Right.
Just fleeting.
But
receding.
This fleeting meeting that had not very nice greetings. I don't know.
Oh God. What is this? What are we doing?
So the first thing that we really get, or the first thing that really struck me was that they're all supposed to meet here, and Renly has has let her know that I'm not coming until Stannis is there. Because a king doesn't wait. This is like how this starts. So you know it's just going to be all downhill.
Yep.
And then we get the story of Storm's End, which I thought was pretty cool.
This is a weird one.
Right? This whole... So the myth, the origin, whatever you want to call it, this man, Duran? Duran, maybe?
Duran. I don't like Duran. It's got associations for me. We're going to go ahead with Duran.
It's got wonderful associations. I do like me some Duran. So this guy falls in love with a daughter of a sea god and a goddess of the wind. Mm-hmm. And he sort of takes her maidenhood, which is not how I was planning on finishing that sentence. And they go off to live together in a mortal life. Mm-hmm. And her parents are so outraged and so grief-stricken that they just send like relentless gales and rising seas on his home, on his castle, to destroy it. And he keeps building new ones and they keep destroying them.
I love it so much.
And then finally he gets to, I forget what number is it? Is it the 7th?
7, I think, yeah.
And this one is so, I don't even know. It's so adorable. It is suspected, it's whispered that he may have even gotten help from Children of the Forest, so there's like magic involved. Some people say that when Bran the Builder was just a small child, he was the one who instructed him on how to build this. I don't want to call it a castle. I want to call it something else.
Fortress.
Fortress is good, yeah, right? Because I want a word that implies, that it is sturdy and can stand up to just about anything. Impregnable. And he's finally successful in building something that the gods can't destroy. And then they give us his full name, which is Doran God's Grief.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, oh, he earned that. That wasn't his born name. It was no Mr. and Mrs. God's Grief, right?
No, definitely not. Oh my God, can you imagine? I'm like picking my own last name as Owen and I are preparing for the wedding. We're going to choose a last name that we like together because we're not planning to have kids and we don't care. If we picked something like that, can you... Like, what would you even say to me?
I would say, well done, madam. Well done.
Oh, God. Be like, look, I may not have earned this name yet, but I will. That's going to be what my new life's work will be. I'm just going to be tirelessly attempting every day to earn this name.
Oh, that's good stuff. So that's like a little backstory on Storm's End, and I was here for it.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. So, then these motherfuckers show up.
Yeah.
Stannis is first, and he has brought with him Melisandre, and Catelyn is just like, what? Who's? Oh.
She sort of figures out what this woman's with.
Right, because when he's, before Stannis is up close, they're like noticing that like what is that banner? Mm-hmm. That's not the banner that's not like the Baratheon John. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then she notices there's a woman dressed all in red, and then she kind of makes the connection like, oh, a red priestess. I see. He shows up. She calls him Lord Stannis to his face.
I love that shit.
He doesn't say anything.
No.
And she takes a moment to appreciate it. She realizes kind of like, she's grateful. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't stop calling him that.
No. She's like, I'm just going to set the tone here so that we all know where I stand on this. What, out of the two of them, Stannis and Renly, who do you think should have yielded?
Oh, God. I think we talked about this before.
We talked about it before, and we talked about like who we think would have made the better king.
Right.
But in this situation right now, here, after seeing the two of them interact, who do you think?
You know what? This is going to sound really like the complete opposite of everything I just said. But I don't know if either of them should have yielded in this moment. Because I don't know what the immediate after effect would have been, right? Like, I guess by numbers, Stannis should have been the one to yield because Renly has the larger host. And the reason I say, I'm not saying that because I think that Renly would like outmatch him, but I think because if Renly yields, I don't know that his large host of all of these different people that have sworn to him, I don't know if they just go over to Stannis. You know? But Stannis has such a smaller host that even if they don't go over to Renly, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Okay. Interesting. Because I ask because Austin Armenio, who has been sending us notes, thank you, Austin, he included in his notes here, in another example of Renly not being as smart as he thinks he is, if he had sided with Stannis, there is a good chance Renly would still end up king. As he cruelly points out, Stannis has had only stillborn sons and a sickly daughter. There is not an unreasonable chance that if Stannis were to win and die without a son, Renly would take the throne. But to your point, I kind of am not... I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm like, I'm not sure that his men would have agreed to side with Stannis at all. I like to think that he has enough like charisma and loyalty from them that if he assured them and sort of like told them that he was playing the long game, they would. But I don't know. You know,
right?
They're really out there fucking making their opinions known about some shit. So they're very mouthy.
It's a large group of people to convince. He's got all of these different houses. He even has, he doesn't have whole houses that aren't sworn to. It's just that one guy that Catelyn runs into that's sworn to River Run. But my point is, Renly has gathered all of these different houses, and that's a lot of people to convince. After you've convinced them to follow you, to then be like, okay, you know what? But for right now, we're gonna go follow this other guy. So, yeah. Before Renly shows up, there's a little bit of conversation about Ned Stark. Stannis still has some grudges. This motherfucker can hold a grudge.
Oh, man, can he ever?
You really have to respect that. I mean, I used to be really good at it. I have, I think, grown. I don't hold them. Well, you know what? That is not true. I am trying to grow so that I don't hold them as long and as tightly. You know?
I hear a butt coming.
Yeah, I could hold a grudge, y'all.
I was just thinking of some shit today that happened at this point, like, almost 20 years ago. And I got as angry as if that shit had just happened. So, apparently, I have some growing to do still.
You know, it is not like one of my favorite qualities. I read all the things. I know how holding the stuff in your heart does you more damage than anything anybody else. And all of that stuff, right? Trying every day to be a little bit better than I was the day before. But there are a couple of things that I have just not let go. And like you just said, if I think about them, I get as mad as if it had just happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things, though, are things where I didn't really say my piece at the time. And that's what keeps that thing alive. You know what I mean?
Yep. Anytime if you didn't get to say your shit, or if somebody just straight up, this is the one that gets me, somebody just straight up lies on me and people believe it, and so I never get like a moment of real vindication where I get to watch them realize they were lied to, and that shit did not happen that way. Oh, I have so much pride. I can't handle stories being told about me that I did. Like, look, I do enough wrong for real. You don't need to lie about me. You'll find something if you want to find something. Like, plenty of shit I've done that you could just straight up tell the truth and it'd be like, what the fuck, Natasha? But lying and then people believing that shit, oh, I get so mad. And it's always just like extra salty for me because, oh, really? That's all I had to do was just lie about somebody to you? That was how easy it could have been? And I just decided to do it the hard way and actually tell the truth about shit, and here I am. Great. I get so mad about it.
That's that extra special, I'm trying to be a better person bitterness.
Exactly.
Like, I could have just been a messy bitch.
Just like for an outside, like a vague sketch of what I'm thinking of. Somebody, like, a girl that I used to work with who was a superior to me had an affair with my boss. And I knew about it. The whole fucking store knew about it. Let's be real. But I was at a new location and somebody was talking shit about her. And he was a predator, straight up. Like, yeah, she chose to get involved in the way that she did while she was engaged in whatever. But he was a predator. He came after me. He came after another girl I work with. And I defended her to this person who was talking shit. And that night, I get this angry phone call from her because that person who was talking shit about her told her that I was talking shit about her. And I still think back and I'm so angry that, like, there was no reason to bring me into it. I wasn't going to tell her about the conversation. I think they were worried I was going to tell her, so they decided to get in front of it.
Absolutely.
But I was never even, like, I hadn't dreamed of saying a word to her. And it made me so upset that I'm out here trying to, like, stand up for her, and she's immediately believing the worst thing about me. And I was like, wow, cool. And I don't know, like, I told her that is not how that happened. And I think that I had the ring of truth to it enough that she did, maybe, but she just got off the phone real quick, and I still think about that, and I'm just like, what the fuck, man? This dickhead guy just talking shit and then deciding to be extra petty and bring me into it in this way. Fuck you, man. I hope you got COVID.
COVID.
So what was that about grudges you were saying?
Well, that was an outstanding story. I'm not even going to try to top it. I'm not even going to share my story.
I want to hear your story. Tell it.
It's not really much of a story. It's just that I don't think I may have shared this on another podcast, but I had a cousin, and she completely robbed us. She was in her addiction at the time, and she came and got the key to the apartment. She came to my high school, and, like, they called me to the principal's office, and it was her, and she was like, she had spent the weekend with us. She's like, I left my pocketbook at your house. Can I get your key so I can go grab it?
Oh my God.
So I gave her my key, and when I got home from school, that in the Grinch, when he goes and steals everything, even the ice cubes, she fucking robbed us blind. And she stole, you know how in the city we all have those shopping carts for, like, your grocery and your laundry?
Yeah.
She stole that, and I was
haul
like,
her shit
to haul my shit out of my
Oh my God. How could you say this story? This is so much better than my story.
We had, those big water jugs from the old-fashioned, like, water fountains in the office that everybody puts coins in. Mm-hmm. Right? She dumped it out and took all, like, the silver coins and just left a giant pile of pennies.
Oh, wow.
Like, she was in my apartment for, like, 5 hours. It was the most thorough robbery you've ever seen.
That never even occurred to me how long that would take. Holy shit.
So when I got home from school, I was like, it hit me in slow motion. I was like, where's the TV?
Oh my God.
That's weird. And then I went into my mom's bedroom and I saw the big pile of pennies and I was like, that's weird. And then I swear to God, y'all, when I was looking for the TV and stuff, I went in the bathroom and I pulled the shower curtain back.
Maybe Mom wanted to watch it in the tub.
My brain just could not comprehend. It was right. So that happened in 1989. I did not speak to her again until 1993.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. But she had got herself clean. They called and told me that she had a baby. One of my cousins called me and told me that she had a baby. And I was like, fuck her, and hung up the phone. We went to, there was a family funeral. I looked dead through her. I refused to fucking talk to her for years and years. And I didn't talk to her again until there was another family funeral. But yeah, I held that grudge hard. Even my mom forgave her. My brother forgave her. I was like, nah. You had me looking in the shower for a TV. Nah.
I love that. And listen, look, people can reform. You don't owe them forgiveness. Good. I'm glad you got better for yourself. But I still think that coming to a child and lying for a key while they're at school is maybe a bridge too far.
You know what the best part is? She left her pocketbook.
She did not. Oh, what a dumb bitch. I almost want to think that was purposeful. I know it wasn't, but just as an extra petty, haha. But of course it wasn't. But oh my God.
But yeah, I held that grudge hard. But eventually, I forgave her and we would laugh. I can tell the story and laugh because, life is what it is. And she would, until she passed away, every once in a while, she would hit me up on Facebook and just be like, I'm real sorry I stole your shit.
I'd be like, I would like every one of those quarters back. I have laundry to do. We would me back for years on my laundry.
Oh yeah. Oh God,
damn, that's amazing.
Laugh.
I can't believe you tried to say that my story was better. Get out of here. You knew yours was better. You liar.
Well, mine has a sad tint to it though, so I wasn't sure if it was
true,
appropriate. Yeah. But yeah, oh boy, I wish y'all could have seen me looking around that apartment.
So sad. Oh my God.
I had just had the best Christmas ever. The Christmas before, because this happened in November. So the previous Christmas, I had one of the best Christmases of my life because my mom had all this guilt because I had lived away and I had just come back home. So my mom got me. I had a bonkers Christmas. I had all of this shit that I got at the edge of my bed in the boxes they came in, and then a row of stuffed animals on top of all the boxes. Mm-hmm. And when I got home and I was looking for shit, I noticed a pile of pennies and coins, and then in my bedroom, all the stuffed animals were on the bed. And I was like, that is so weird. Why would that be like that?
Oh my God.
And it's because she had, threw them all out the way to get to all my electronics and shit that I had got for Christmas.
Listen, I'm glad that you forgave her and everything, but I'll nurse this grudge on your behalf because I'm freshly angry right now.
Anyway, these guys here, all of that from talking about how Stannis can hold a grudge. So they talk about Ned. She is Ned is the one who saved you from the siege. And he was like, well, he only did it because Robert said, which is not the point, sir.
No. But he's it's interesting. Because he, like, simultaneously tries to be like, well, people don't like me, I'll just do a different thing. But you can tell that it really bothers him that people don't like him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the fact that it wasn't personal affection, he doesn't like that. He wants somebody to give a shit.
He, you know what, that's what's so, with the thing about Stannis, right? Like, he wants people to like him. But he wants them to like him, not out of like I think like a real like desire for necessarily affection, but because he thinks he deserves to be liked, which is a different thing, right?
Yes.
And he's just like, you know, these people are not smart enough to know that they should love me.
Oh, that is beautiful. Oh, I might have to make that a postcard. That's good shit right there.
So yeah, all this to say, Catelyn is just kind of being like, you know, Ned respected you, he saved you from the siege, and he's like, well, he only did it because Robert said so, and then I should have been the hand, and she's like, well, Ned didn't even want to be it, and he's like, well, he took it. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a difficult man.
Indeed.
But meanwhile, he says, but despite all of that, I will still give you justice.
I love this. She's just like, oh, yeah, another one. Promising me all like somebody's head on a platter. Mm-hmm. They fucking keep on singing the same song.
Yep.
I just want this shit to stop right now.
Exactly. And she tells him that. She's like, your brother promised me the same thing. But I would rather just have my daughters back. Mm-hmm. How about that? Which nobody seems to be interested in.
Nope.
Oh my
He's
God.
Like, says, I'll bring them back to you, but there's like this unspoken, like, in a body bag kind of vibe to it.
You know. Alive or dead. Oh my God.
Sorry.
So she says to him, when he says, you know, I'll bring you bring your children back when I take the city. And she says, well, when are you going to do that? Because Dragonstone is close to King's Landing, but you're all way up here.
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Right. And he tells her, first he's like, you're very frank, which I feel is like a low-key way of being like, you got a lot of nerve.
A little bit, yeah.
But since you had the nerve to ask me, I'm going to tell you. And he just says that I have to take these men from my brother. My brother has all these lords. I need them, so I got to take them. And they're going back and forth, and I think Renly just shows up and like jumps into the conversation.
Pretty much, yeah.
In a way that feels like he crept up on them, but there's no way it could have been like that. Right?
Here, kings have no friends, Stannis said bluntly, only subjects and enemies. And brothers, a cheerful voice called out behind her. This fucking guy. And brothers pulls out a peach and starts eating it.
This whole thing with Renly, he is being really... He's being kind of obnoxious.
Provoking.
Yeah. He's pushing Stannis' buttons. He apparently has shown up just to do that. Mm-hmm. Just to stick it to his brother. It feels like he's got no interest in trying to have any kind of real negotiation. Which, I guess, to be fair, Stannis isn't really there to negotiate either. He's there to give Renly the opportunity to, like, you know, yield to him, or however the fuck you say it.
Yeah.
But Renly is... It's a funny contrast, because Stannis is so stiff and formal, and, like, does he ever laugh? Probably not. I don't have it on, you know, my assumption is he doesn't.
I genuinely can't remember if he laughs in these books. I'm trying to think if there's any point, and I got nothing.
And Renly is just being, this is just all a joke. And he knows that, oh my God, he says, Stannis, is that truly you?
He's just like, well, I guess if we're not flying the same banner, the battle will be a little bit easier for people to fucking parse out on the sidelines. This is one of those things that with Stannis, I just can't get over what a bad move it is. Like, him choosing an entirely different banner. Everybody already dislikes you. The one thing that you have going for you is the fact that this is, like, your rightful claim. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you choose to abandon your family's heraldry, which is like your claim is based in that. I just think that's like such a boneheaded fucking move.
When the description of it in the stag is like tiny
inside the heart,
you can barely see it. You're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of back and forth with Renly just really pissing Stannis off. Like,
do you remember when IHOP changed their name to IHOB?
Oh my God!
I know that it wasn't real, but like, same energy for me.
I cannot. Years later, I cannot believe how upset everyone got. And I can't believe I was one of those people. I didn't go and talk about it on social media or anything, but inside, I was incensed.
Guys, can somebody please give me a Photoshop Stannis with his banner that says IHOP on it?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you to get that out, but I just could not stop thinking about it.
I had forgotten all about that. Oh my God, talk about holding a grudge. So again, this conversation, I guess we could go through it a little bit more closely because there's a couple of good lines in there, but it is Renly telling Stannis to his face, no one likes you, no one wants you for their king. Sorry.
Yep. Literally those words.
Yeah, it's harsh.
With just the sorry at the end, which I swear to God is the most insulting part somehow.
And Catelyn the whole time, she's just like, this is what are you doing? This is insane. At one moment they're going at each other, and she thinks to herself, Cersei must be laughing herself so she can't even breathe.
Mm-hmm. And we literally saw that to be true. When she gets the news from Tyrion, she laughs so hard that she can't breathe, so she's not wrong.
Right. And, it's just, oh, God. So, Jesus Christ. There's a line where, Renly is saying, to Stannis that you served Robert, why won't you serve me? And Stannis is just like, well, he is my older brother. You're younger, so it doesn't work that way. And Renly says, younger, bolder, and far more comely. Oh, my God.
I hate him.
Yeah, it's real bad, y'all. It's real bad.
They're both so terrible in their very own special way. I don't want either of them being king, man.
Yeah.
They'd each make a fucking mess out of it.
It gets pretty, nasty, even though Renly maintains sort of an air of, this is all beneath him, and it's just all, for the laws. But, he, says to Stannis about, not having any sons, and, talks about something, he says something about his wife laying with his fool, which I guess is the patch face thing.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no wonder she goes to him to get laid. I wouldn't want to fuck her either.
Yeah, right?
And then Stannis is like, oh, well, at least she was getting fucked at all, whereas your wife probably is still a maiden. What's happening?
Exactly. And then the thing about Cersei and the kids not being Roberts comes out. And this is news to Catelyn because she has been kind of busy.
I forgot she didn't know this.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, those ravens went out to the whole world, but I guess...
It seems like it would be important enough for her to be informed of.
Like, I don't know if it was just she wasn't with... Maybe Rob didn't get one until after she had already left his company. I don't know the timing or whatever, but when we find out in this moment that she is just like, what? I was like, wait, she didn't know? And... Renly is pretending like he doesn't believe it. I don't know if he's being sincere or not.
Yeah, that one was sort of catching my attention also. I can't tell.
Yeah, he's acting very much like, well, do you have any proof? And like, this is a wild story you're telling. And he says, I took my suspicions to Jon Arryn. Which I feel like was news to me. Did I know that? That
Stannis was talking to Jon Arryn? He should have.
Yeah.
Ned talks about, like, the two of them meeting with one another and talking about this stuff.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I was like, did I know that was happening? So he says, I took my suspicions to Jon Arryn, and Renly is like, instead of taking them to Robert, and Catelyn has just thought to herself, Robert would have taken her fucking head off.
Yeah. Yep. She's like, yeah, there is no way that he knew about this because this would have gone a different way.
Yeah. She doesn't think to herself about Ned in this moment, which I guess is reasonable. Right?
Yeah.
Like, for her to think immediately, oh, I wonder if Ned knew in this moment when she's standing next to Renly and Stannis. I don't think it's unreasonable.
She thinks about her sister's accusation that Jon Arryn was murdered.
Right, exactly.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't think it's... I'm wondering if she will later start to wonder if Ned knew. And if that's what ultimately got him killed. I can't remember if that connection happens on the show or not, so I really don't know if this is something that happens, it's something I'm going to see or not. I honestly can't remember. I can't remember if there's ever a moment with her character where she puts it all together. So the things with Stannis and Renly just really escalate from this moment. And she shares with them about Lysa, thinking that Jon Arryn was killed and that it was blamed on Tyrion. And then he does the thing with the peach.
What is that, man?
It made me want a peach, and I don't even like them.
Man, we got some good peaches this year. They were good.
They are such a fickle thing.
They are.
And
the most recent batch
peach.
We got were nasty, so they were grainy.
Ugh.
Hate that mealy shit.
Yeah, that'll put you off of eat a peach.
Yeah.
For a season or two if you get a bad batch of them.
Don't put them in the fridge, people. I think that's what happened with these. Somebody somewhere along the line put them in refrigeration, and that'll fuck them up. Same thing with tomatoes. Don't refrigerate your fucking tomatoes, you lunatics.
Oh, no?
No.
Huh.
Turns them mealy.
Oh, I need to take my tomatoes out of the refrigerator.
I love when I say some shit assuming that you're on my side with this, and then you're like, that's news to me. I gotta remember that you and I do not see food the same way, man.
We really do not. I have a much more, utilitarian view of food.
Yeah.
I did not come here to eat fruit.
I swear to God, these two, it really is like little fucking children. Well, at least my girlfriend is prettier than your girlfriend.
There's a moment where Catelyn says something like, if I was your mother, I would bang your heads together. Like the fucking Three Stooges.
And fucking Stannis is like, you presume too much. And I'm like, you deserve to be treated like the child you're acting like right now.
The way he is behaving, he doesn't get to tell anybody. They presume anything. My goodness. So, Renly says, you know what? I've never liked you.
I swear to God.
But then, like, tries to soften the blow, I guess, by saying, but I'll give you Storm's End if that's what you want. Fucking just take it. Robert gave it to me, I'll give it to you. And Stannis is like, it's not yours to give. Bruh, he has it, though.
It's the principle.
It's always about the principle.
It's I can't have you acting like you did something nice when this is what I was owed from the start. Which I do understand that feeling. But also, both of you just kill yourselves already and save us all the trouble of this battle that we're going to have. Ugh.
Yeah.
Can we not, like, include everybody else in this pointless battle and just have it be you two, please? Over and done with.
It is, like I said, at the end of this, I was really, really tired. Renly says to Brienne, what am I to do with this brother? He refuses my peach. He refuses my castle. He even shunned my wedding. And this is when we get the line about, you know, Marjorie remaining a maid. And then Stannis has had enough.
Yeah.
And he pulls out his sword. Which is very impressive. Yeah, everybody is just like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like, it looks brighter outside now.
Later on, Renly's like, where can I get me a sword like that? Shit. Well, I'll probably get it after he's dead. I was just like, good God, Renly.
Yeah. And so then they have a little bit of a measuring contest. And Renly names, like, all of the houses that are supporting him. You know, all the numbers he has compared to Stannis's, I guess, meager numbers.
Yeah.
And is like, you know, catch me outside tomorrow. That's kind of how this is.
How about that?
Oh, boy.
Yep. So.
Yeah, Renly and Catelyn go off and talk a little bit more.
I'm
after
going to
Stannis
look up
leaves.
using my little Kindle thing. You know how I can search things? How many times does it say Stannis ground his teeth? 5.
I thought it would be more than that.
Yeah, that's it. We got page 24, 139, 410, 525, and 528. He always ground his teeth. He ground his teeth together. Stannis ground his teeth. The king ground his teeth. Stannis ground his teeth. I love it. Okay. Thanks, Kindle. Just needed to check.
That's a pretty handy little feature.
I know, right? I love that.
The last thing that when Stannis goes to leave, and then Melisandre turns and tells Renly to look at his own sins. And then again, yeah. So he talks to Catelyn, and he makes the joke about Loras giving him the sword as a gift after they basically murder Stannis.
Yeah.
And then they all go back to his camp, and Catelyn asks if she can go now, since this is all, like, nothing really happened. And we find out that Renly is like, no, actually, you can't go.
I was so surprised when he tells her that she doesn't have his permission. I was like, wait, what? I had totally forgotten that he does this.
I was also surprised. Can't remember, you know, if it happened in the show or it didn't happen in the show. I was surprised. And he wants her to stay and bear witness to what happens to rebels.
Right.
Which, even though it's all very pleasant, it feels very much like a threat.
Yep.
And he wants to send her home to Robb so Robb can hear firsthand what happens to people who oppose Renly. Yeah. It's a little... Considering we watched him for the last several pages kind of act like a fool and not take anything seriously. This is like a... Oh my God, Siri, if you don't shut
Siri,
up...
we watched him.
Was that Siri?
Yeah, I have the voice changed.
Oh, okay. You were talking about how it was a sudden bit of seriousness coming from Renly.
and darkness too. You know, suddenly things are not like very jokey.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like. It's so hard to say. And, like, I know that I've gone over this a million times about who would actually make the better king. And in the current circumstances, with what we know is coming down from the north soon, who really knows? But every time that I see Renly being, like, as petty as he is, I'm like, I don't think he'd be good at this. But, like, Stannis threatens Catelyn's son in the middle of that conversation because he's just, like, pissy. When he could be trying to win her over, and it just doesn't occur to him to do that because this is supposed to be Robb's duty, so why should I have to be charming?
Right.
And I just cannot. If we put both of them together, they might make a halfway decent king. But each of them separately is like the worst kinds of just like hubris in their own ways.
Jerry and George team up to date one woman.
Oh my God. No. I saw some like comedic song today that said, "Get the big salad like George Costanza." George Costanza didn't get the big salad, did he? That was Elaine, right?
No. George bought the big salad. Elaine carried the big salad.
Right.
And then Elaine handed the big salad.
Credit for the
and
big
she got
salad.
the thank you. She got the thank you for the big salad. Yeah.
I love so much that I just had that cleared up for me by you. Thank you. Some TikToker somewhere is going, thank you to you right now. Fucking eating this peach. I swear to God, I just came across it again. What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway.
You know what? I was going to make another Seinfeld reference, but I will spare you guys.
Don't do it.
I'm not going to do it. One an episode.
So the chapter ends, like, first there's all these guys who are fighting to be in the vanguard, and Catelyn is like, ugh.
There's a little bit of a conversation about whether or not Renly should even fucking be bothered.
Yeah.
Right? And he doesn't want people to think he's scared to face Stannis. Because somebody is like, I think it's Lord Rowan is just like, you don't have to do this. The castle is garrisoned. Let Stannis have his fucking siege. We are going to go and take King's Landing while he sits there, gets cold and hungry. And this is when Renly is like, and then people will think that I was scared to face him.
Yeah.
And so he puts it like a fake-ass vote to his men. What do you all say? And they pretty much come to an agreement that no, he has to stay and deal with Stannis. And then you're right, there's this sort of rush to have the honor of, I guess, fighting.
Being in the front.
Yeah. And he delegates who's going to go and do what. And Brienne wants to stay next to him, and he decides to send her out with someone else. Is it Loras? I don't think so.
I think that Loras is the one that's going to be by his side. Right? Or no, Loras is heading the vanguard.
Loras is leading something. Brienne is going to go
Here it
somewhere
is.
with someone. You
Grant
found
me
it?
your blessing and a knight to ride beside me with your banner. Brienne, your grace, my place is at your side. And he sends her with Loras. That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
Okay.
And then she says, well, can I at least grant me the honor of arming you for battle? And Catelyn hears people, like, snickering at her.
Yeah. She thinks to herself that, she feels pity and says, oh, she loves him.
Mm-hmm.
She would play at his being his squire just for a chance to touch him.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care what anyone thinks of her or how much of a fool they think she is.
Mm-hmm. It's so sad.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Brienne sometimes.
And so she asks to leave, and she asks if it's okay if she goes. I think she asks to go to pray somewhere.
Yeah, she asks to go to one of the septs finally. If I can't leave, can I at least pray? And she advises Renly to pray for wisdom. And he just sort of smirks and is just like, I haven't prayed in a minute. I don't know, maybe I should remember.
And she runs into someone from a house. It's a Royce.
Robar Royce.
Yeah, she's like, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
You are supposed to be bannerman to House Aaron. And he is just like, you know what? I am a second son. There was really nothing for me at home.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go out into the world to find your glory, where you can find it. And she remarks that even though this guy is probably older than Robb, she thinks Robb has more wisdom at his young age.
Yeah.
And then then it says, or so she prayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that is the end of that chapter.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Is there anything you want to add? Because I am having some pain in my mouth. I had a dental
I'm
thing,
good.
guys, that is, I'm not going to get into it, but it is still hurting me. So, if you all can forgive me, I'm going to wrap this one up early. The one thing that I want to mention is that I did a show with Cam and Miles and Megan Bob called Hard Choices that I will link in the show notes about Game of Thrones, and it was listing the characters in order of fuckability combined with our arguments as to why we selected the people that we selected as most to least fuckable. I think it goes actually from least to most fuckable. And there was some very contentious back and forths on certain characters that we did not agree on at all. But it was really fun to do. And we recorded it a while ago, but it's the sort of thing that's sort of just like a casual project. So it comes out whenever Megan Bob gets good and damn ready to fucking edit that shit, because it takes a lot of editing. So, yeah, if you guys see the link on that, give it a click and listen and have a good time. It was a really fun one. And let me know if you agree or disagree with my choices. Actually, don't let me know. I'm right. I don't need to be told that I'm right by anybody. I know I'm right. It's always and forever Tormund Giantsbane. All right, everybody. I will say hi to new patrons next week. Thank you all again so much for listening. I appreciate you all, and I also appreciate your patience on everything going up late this week because of this wisdom tooth thing. And we will be seeing you again soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.